Mail. Gentlemen, we have got another battle for Trollopolis on our hands here, and this one is a doozy. I am going to go ahead and do this strictly as a live play. Let me give those of you that are new to the channel and new to Trollopolis a little bit of background on this. Trollopolis is one of, if not the greatest AD&D campaign ever run, ever known to man or God. Well, God or man, isn't that the way the phrase usually goes? Want to welcome you, those of you that are joining in now. It is fairly late here in these United States, and I am relatively new to the live streaming, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm kind of bumbling my way through this new one. Nothing like working without a net, nothing like working that high wire, and when you've got one challenge that you're trying to overcome, why not go ahead and add in multiple challenges all at the same time? So let's talk a little bit about D&D. And I do have, so this is my first time. I have, howdy, Jack. I have a laptop. And like I said, I'm not very good at this. I'm going to try to bring up the comments on the stream so that I can kind of glance over, and of course my laptop. Oh, that's why we're using this on the cell phone again, because my laptop has decided not to connect to the internet. Well, isn't that just dandy? My apologies to those of you who are expecting a highly polished and refined stream. When it comes to streaming, I'm a heck of a wargamer. When it comes to wargaming, I'm a heck of a wargamer. And yeah, so my laptop is kaput, which is a shame because it would have come in handy. All right, so here's the deal. Trollopolis is an AD&D campaign. That's the chair creaking. That ain't me, brother. Run by one of my online bros, a fellow by the name, well, I shouldn't say it's by a number of my online bros. It's one of those revolving campaigns that has multiple DMs and multiple groups that are all operating simultaneously in real time, or as close as you can get in a D&D campaign. There are a number of players are running factions, full factions, and you can see here on your screen a couple of those factions right now. Down here in the bottom of your screen, right here, you see the Gnome army. And up on the top, if we pan back just a little bit, you can see the Trollopulous army. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't know exactly 100% what's going on in Trollopolis, but I don't feel too bad about that because nobody does. It's a big, sprawling mess of a campaign, and the best way to follow it is if you have a Twitter account. First of all, my condolences. Second of all, go check out the hashtag Trollopolis. Trollopolis is a city that used to be run by Elric of Molnybony. It has a trollop-based economy that has seen better days. The last we heard, they had just come out of a siege. A demon with an orcish army had laid siege to the city. The siege was broken, and then things got worse because Chaz the elf showed up and bribed the goblins to start tearing down statues and rioting and demanding equal treatment. And I don't even know what all is going on in there. I know there's an undead quarter, and most recently, I believe somebody collapsed all of the sewers, so the streets are open sewers now. It's a disaster. Chaz the elf has seized the Ruby Throne and begun issuing proclamations about how the entire city is a no-go zone for humans. It is for elves and demi-humans only. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of guys running around. Now, the last run around doing all of their own stuff. So in our last episode of The Joy of Wargaming, we ran through a chainmail scenario that pitted the hobgoblins against the Tharks, and somewhere outside of Trollopolis, the hobgoblins ambushed the Tharks, who were trying to loot a ruined village, and they managed to steal a number of the Tharks. That, for those of you that don't know, Tharks are the green-skinned Martians from Barsoom. Yeah, they're in here too. I think they're working with Macho Mandolf, but I'm not sure about that one, to be honest with you. Long story short, the hobgoblins got away with it, and we don't know what the full ramifications of that battle are. Not to rest on our laurels, we have another battle that is going on. The Gnome King, and this is him now. I'm using proxy figures today. So if they look a little bit wonky, that's the reason why. I'm using 15 millimeter figures from a number of manufacturers. And this fella right here, he's actually in a regular miniatures halfling. And he is going to serve, see, he's got the golden crown. He is going to serve as our Gnome King, Inkle the Fourth. And the guy that's running this, call it quarter of the Trollopolis campaign, has wound up running a tabletop such that two of the players' factions are now, actually might even be three to be honest with you, have come to grips. They have come to head, and now they are Warfrat. So some Warfrat says, I think the weeaboos collapsed the sewers. It's entirely possible. The players in this campaign beg, borrow, and steal from every IP known to man. When you've got Elric of Maldaboni, who is working with Tharks to ensure that Macho Mandolf, who obviously is a ripoff of the Macho King, it's just bonkers, and it's great. It's fantastic. Everybody throws their. It's what I think of as Stone Soup Wargaming or Stone Soup RPGs. You start with just it's a city, on the borderlands, and everybody starts throwing ingredients in, and suddenly, if you take it seriously, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but if you take the game itself seriously, you wind up with something that is greater than the sum of its parts, and you wind up with instances like this where you have two armies meeting. Now, in this case, as I said, Inkle IV has rallied his men. He's got a force of about 600 guys, heavy on the clerics, and they are marching to Trollopolis. They're upset about what has happened in the past, and I got to be honest with you, I don't know what it is, but they're going to exact reparations for harm that was done to the Gnomish people in the past. And Trollopolis has said, no, we're not going to let you get close to the city. So, yes, Dartmart, I believe the Gnome Kingdom is just a big garden. It's underground, though. That much I'm pretty sure. And I do believe they do wear the red pointy hats. They are marching to the city to make their demands heard, and Trollopolis has dispatched a counterforce. So it gets a little complicated here because you've got two main, I'm going to call them characters on the side of Trollopolis. Over here on our left, as we look at the screen, is Zanzel Melanchthonies. And he was one of the original NPCs. He might even still be an NPC. He's the guy, the wizard that sold the initial map to the initial playing party that started this by the book AD&D campaign. He saw them at the inn and he said, I've got this map that I'd be willing to part with. I'm frail and old, and it's worth a fortune, but unfortunately, I just need 10 gold pieces. Although you're robbing me, I'll part with it for the paltry sum of 20 gold pieces. And so they bought it, and things just went downhill from there. He is a 15th level wizard who is a big shot, a high mucky muck in the political circles in Trollopolis. He is backed up by his second over here. So here's my version of Zamzel Melanchthonies. High-powered wizard. Very high level. And then over here we've got Yoko Ono. It's actually, I think this is taken from Jack Vance's Dying Earth. Yoko Ono. It's ICUONNOUO, something like that. Yoko Ono. He's one of Jack Vance's wizards. And he's going to be hanging out over here. He's got his bodyguard to his right as we look at it. His bodyguard is Egidus, and then he is also hanging out with a unit of heavy foot. Now, that's a fair fight. With Yoko Ono and Zamzel, you've got about 600 human warriors, you've got about 600 gnomes, heavy on the clerics, and that's a fair fight, which Trollopolis does not believe in. So they petitioned the Necromancer King, hey, can we borrow some of your undead? And that's what you see here in the center. You've got, holding the center are 1,000 skeletons, 1,800 zombies, and oh, by the way, at one point, one of the adventuring parties killed Godzilla, and then they left the corpse there for the the Necromancer King, to raise the dead. So this is actually, this purple dinosaur with the green belly is actually a zombie Godzilla, and he's going to be doing his part as well. Okay, now here's what I have received from the DM saying, "Man, this is bonkers. I'm not sure exactly what's going to go, how this is going to go." So the gnome's objective here is to neutralize the wizards so that they can focus on cracking the undead. They are not fans of the undead. They're quite the opposite. So that, I think, is going to be the primary goal for the gnomes. They want to get in, wipe out the undead, and then get out. They don't care about these bandits over here. They don't care about these heavy boys over here. Their goal. Now, it gets a little more complicated. So let's run down what we're looking at here. I am using this lion figure over on the left to represent, and here's the roster that we were given. Hopefully this will zoom in and we can see it. Yeah, we can see it right there in the shadow of the camera. So this is our gnome, right? Gnomes have +4 to saving throws. We've got one group of 60 with short sword and short bow. All right, so I'm using about a 1 to 50 ratio. Every one of these figures represents, on the table now, represents 50 in-game, you call them pawns, right? We've got 2 stands of gnomes with short sword and spear, 2 with club and sling, 5 with club and spear. Now, bear in mind, swords and clubs are going to be very different when we sit down to play out our rock, paper, scissors. Because if we shift focus over here to Trollopulous, as you can see, we've got, it's 800. Wait, if it's 1 to 50, I've got way too many boys down. It's going to be, no, that's right. It's going to be 16 figures worth of zombies and 10 of skeletons. And remember, skeletons, you take half damage from edged weapons. Neither of these guys are going to suffer from fatigue and morale. All right, that's good to know. Well, what about our zombie Godzilla? We're going to call that a small kind giant, 8 hit points, fights his armored foot, right? Because we are playing a chainmail battle here. So the skeletons, what this means tactically is, our gnomes with the clubs want to go up against the skeletons and leave the zombies to the guys with the bladed weapons. Got it? Got it. So that's one of the things we got to do. Now, this solo war game that I'm putting on for you guys today, I'm going to go through every step of the process and go through all of my justifications. The players are going to come back and they're going to watch this and they're going to be screaming at their screen, "That's not what I would have done. That's not what I would have done." Well, you're not here. That said, I don't know who the actual players are for these guys, so I'm a completely neutral third party. Trust me when I say, whatever decisions I make just out of the sheer, insanity that's contained within my own head. And one of the reasons I'm going through this live and every single painstaking detail is because I want to show you, dear viewer, whether it's the boys in the house or the live stream, Warfrat Jack, Tiger Shadow, the Warfrat, I'm going to get to that in just a second. I want to show you how easily you can map D&D to Chainmail and then back again, right? And what's going to wind up happening is, because this is a GM'd game, for the most part, we are going to defer to the rules of Chainmail. I've got my cheat sheet right here. I play at half scale, just for those of you that are familiar with Chainmail. However, because we are heavy on the spellcasters between Zanzel, Yokanu, and then there's a bunch of clerics down here, we haven't got to that yet, I will be able to pull out of AD&D some of these spells and use those completely. And the beautiful part about that is, if you look at your player's handbook, a lot of people, I know you guys are aware of this, but for those who are not, let's just pick a spell like, I just flipped to a random page and I got Mass Invisibility here, right? It's a level 7 illusionist spell. And look at the range. It's 1 inch per level. Now, that confused a grade school Mr. Wargaming, because what kind of Mass Invisibility would only have a 1 inch scale? Well, that 1 inch doesn't refer to this inch. It refers to 1 inch down here on the tabletop. So that Mass Invisibility spell, if we read the explanation, it can hide creatures So the range is 1 inch per level. It's a 7th level spell. So you got to be like 12th level to cast it. So you can actually have a range of 1 full foot. It also affects creatures in a 3 inch by 3 inch area up to 3 to 400. So if you cast this spell, now I don't ever remember thinking about, well, how would you cast this spell in a normal tabletop story-based game? When are you going to have 300 or 400 guys you want to make invisible? Then you're going to cram them all into a 3 by 3. Well, here's why these spells are written the way they are. And that's going to come in, that's going to be very important as we go through this process, okay? Because we're going to be pulling out of that DMG and applying it to a chainmail game, and it's going to be virtually seamless. Now, how I have gone about this, and we're still talking about our gnomes here, since these guys are all, unfortunately, the DM put all this information at my fingertips, right? He said, hey, look, oh, wait, there's no notes on these. Well, these guys, well, they're warriors with short swords, short bows. So anybody with spears, right? And if we forgive the camera noise, if we clack on in. So what you're looking at down here in the south is these are this big group right here. James, hi from Sydney. This one's for my Aussie bros. All the guys, most of the guys that are in this campaign are going to have to watch it in the morning. Although, I think the guy running Macho Mandolf, I think he's an Aussie. So he may catch us live. Anyway, what we're going to do is just like your general warriors are going to be classed as heavy foot. Okay? And like I said, these guys here, we've got 5 stands of those. Those are armed with a club and a spear, so they can fight in 2 ranks. You know, this really doesn't look like a fair fight with this few guys. The gnomes have a couple of other balancing factors that we'll get to in a second. But I wanted to mention that this lion down here is representing the wild animals that the gnomes have fighting for them. They have 17 badgers, 6 giant badgers, and 7 wolverines who are going to be attacking. These guys, now, whenever I'm not sure what to do, I go check out the rules for chainmail. And so if you look in the chainmail rules, one of the things that I think is going to work best is they do have rules for giant wolves, including dire wolves. These creatures are equal to light horse in attack and medium horse in movement. There you go. They attack as light horse, they move as medium horse. All right, then we got a couple of guys now. There's dwarves with crossbows. Those are going to be our gnomes with club and sling. We've got this other halfling here is holding a bow. He's going to serve as our gnome with a short bow. As I said, our bulk of troops is club and spear. We've got a couple of guys over here with short sword and short bow, and you can tell that because they have this. You can actually see the sword there. And then over here on the far right is going to be our club. Which one is that? Club and sling, short sword, and spear. So the guys with the swords have swords, and the guys without swords have clubs. Yeah, in fact, look at these. These guys have clubs. See, he's got a mace. This is a dwarf from, I want to say it's from one of the war bands that is available from Raupartha, Europe, as part of the old Demon World line. Anyway, that is our gnomes, okay? Looking over here on this side of the table, let's go ahead and zoom in and see if we can get in there a little bit better. We'll start over here on the left-hand side of the table. I don't have any 15mm mounted troops ready to go. So I'm just going to use, and this is part of the advice for those of you that play tabletop war games. You don't have to use miniatures. Just use 3x5 cards. Use note cards. This is a light horse for the brigands. They have a medium horse, and they have another light horse. Now the light horse with spear, this is a light horse figure with a crossbow. They have to dismount to use those crossbows. Okay? And then we've got now, again, I'm using elves. All right, look, this is a brigand. He's got a bow. This is a brigand. They've got spears. This is a brigand. He's got missile weapons. Which one is it? He's got a crossbow. And then we've got the bulk of troops. These are the brigands with light infantry. And so that's it for the brigands. We've already talked about the undead. And those brigands are all carrying leather The guys, obviously, these are going to fight his horse. These are all light infantry based on what they are carrying, what they're holding. With one exception, there is a brigand leader, and oh, I don't. Where did he go? Let me grab him real quick. Here we go. All right, I think this guy looks. I think he looks sufficiently leader-esque. Zamzel is his heart's not really in this. He is a high-level wizard. He is not going to do anything stupid. He's not going to risk his life over some dopey city. He commands real ultimate power, and you think I'm going to give it up to save a couple of skeletons? I don't think so. Now, the orders I've been given is that he will start off on his left flank with the brigands, relying on them to protect him. Problem that they have is that all of these undead do not have their boss at hand. They will follow Zamzel's orders, but Zamzel's got to be within like 4 inches in order to give them orders. So as the battle starts, he has ordered them, hey, move forward and kill the Gnome King. That's their focus, is get to the Gnome King. If something weird happens, if the gnomes take advantage of that, Zamzel is going to have to move over and give them new instructions. There we go. And then with the last one, we have, like I said, we have Yokono, who is a high-powered wizard. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know what he's doing on here. I don't think he really wants to be here. But he has a couple of, obviously, as a wizard, he has a couple of tricks up his sleeve. We'll get to those when we get to those. Like I said, the 2 wizards are, from their perspective, they're like, look, Necromancer King ain't here. We're going to spend his forces first. Why would these guys expend? And then I should also point out, Yokonu's leaders here. He's got, I think that's a hero. Let me just double check. Yeah, that's Egidus on the right. And then this guy with the horns on the left, that is Heavy Foot. So that's the only Heavy Foot that we have on the board right now. The zombie dinosaur is going to be fighting as 8 medium foot everywhere. So a much smaller scale fight than we had last time, but no less interesting. I think largely, and that's true largely because we're going to be dealing with a whole lot of spells flinging around here. Put Zamzel back here. Speaking of spells, neither of these sides, right, the other trick up the sleeve that the gnomes have, each of these units has 1 attack. They are well stocked with holy water. They can fling that up to 3 inches. Not only that, and then that will affect the undead, obviously. Not only that, each of these units is led by a cleric, either a high-powered cleric with this first set, or the other 4 units have a, what is it listed as in the force roster here? Under clerics. The clerics will all fight as 2 heavy foot. They're going to get 1 attack, and that's going to do some big damage with the holy water. Not only that, but because there are clerics in each of these units, those clerics can cast Dispel Magic. The instructions I have are that the Dispel Magic affects a 3-inch cube. Now remember, half scale, it's going to be 1.5 inches. Any undead in that 1.5 inches, they're gone. If these guys can wipe out the undead, they're going to retreat. They will have extracted sufficient toll for whatever harm was done to them in the past. That's all I'm going to tell you for now. There are a lot of other little secrets through here, but I don't know which of those everyone involved in the campaign knows and which ones they don't. I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to spill any beans. So I'm not going to mention them until they come up. Like I said, the big ones you need to understand right now are spellcasters on the wings, clerics down here. The wizards are fine blowing other people's resources up. so long as they stay protected. I think what we may wind up doing, though, just to the question we're going to have here, and one of the things I do to protect myself from charges of favoritism is I let the dice decide when things get at all complicated. So the question is going to become, the first question I have is, Zamzel is going to, we'll go back up and take a look at him. So Zamzel up here has his bodyguard that he's going to stay close to him. But that's still a lot of brigands that can cause havoc for the gnomes. And make no mistake about it, the wizards would love to see the gnomes put down. So what we'll do is we need to decide, are we going to send the horses on a sweeping motion to flank the gnomes? Or are we going to send these 3 units on that same flanking? So first we'll roll for the horses, and on an even, they will go. So they are going to go. And now we'll roll for the foot troops over here. Same thing. They are all going to go on that sweeping motion to try to flank the gnomes. While the gnomes are tied up with the undead, that's when these guys, these brigands, are going to hit them with everything they have. Perhaps we will we'll slide this bowman over, and he will kind of creep up. As far as terrain is concerned, let's take a look real quick. We don't have a whole lot of it. This is out in the savannas outside of town. There are a couple of cliffs. We got a cliff face on this side and on this side, and there's a third one over here. And we do have hill slopes moving up, and then we have broken ground represented by the grasslands here that will slow everyone's movement by half. The last thing we should talk about, I've already dealt with. So to simplify the battle as it stands, we should talk about the fact that smart players use every tool at their disposal. And one of the tools that is sadly underutilized in tabletop role-playing games is information awareness. You know, this violence is only half of the battle. It turns out knowing is the other half of the battle. Both of these sides, I should say the players, right? This is an elite level campaign. They're not dumb. They take advantage of that. So what that means in game terms is, where is it? I want to read this. Right, the clerics have been using augury spells. They're looking into the future to see if there are good signs or bad signs for this fight. Their counterparts have been using clairvoyant spells to figure out what the gnome plan is before the gnomes show up after breakfast that morning. And that's part of how things are set up right now. The gnomes have chosen a good battleground for them. They've chosen a battleground that will funnel the zombies and undead towards them while having their flank secured by this terrain. That's the benefit of augury, all right? And we've already dealt with that, so I don't even think about it anymore. The gnomes are buffed up by whatever spells they have available right now. And for the record, that would be things like remove fear. But the big spells that are going to be an impact today are, and Inkle here, right? The guy of the golden crown. He is I want to say 7th level. Yeah, he's a 7th level cleric. Yeah, so he's got some magic items, and he's got protection from evil, hold person, silence, 15-foot radius, which, 15 foot? You mean table feet? No, of course not. Basically, it's just going to be enough to silence the wizards. And we may have to pause and look up some spells to say, now one of the spells that I looked up faux show is Fireball. If these guys try to cast Fireball, it's going to do an 1 inch radius. So we'll drop one of these. Kerblamo, and then this only has a radius of, I think it's 3/4 of an inch. Yep. So everybody, again, within, 1.5 inches, put it right in the center. Everybody within basically 1/2 inch of this will take the hit. We will be rolling for saving throws because these gnomes, one of the powers they have is they've got excellent saving throws. So with all of that out of the way, then the question becomes who has the initiative? And that I don't know. The, 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 the question that we have to ask ourselves as the DM is which is going to be more powerful, that augury, or, who's got the benefit of that? I didn't finish that thought yet. So what I did to represent the augury and those countless spells of seeing into the future for the gnomes is the except for the little bit of motion that I did there, Trollopolis defense force deployed first. So let me back up a step. We laid out terrain. Trollopolis figured out what their deployment was. Then the gnomes deployed. Then the gnomes put the terrain wherever they wanted. And they've chosen to put the terrain like this. So they've got a cliff defending their left flank. They've got a cliff defending their right flank, as well as all of this broken ground that will slow movement. And they're funneling all of the undead into a narrow gap that should help alleviate the weight of numbers. Okay, so that's what the augury does. Now, that you could just as easily rule that, hey, all of those augury spells mean that the gnomes have the initiative. And for that, we're just going to roll the dice. If you want to catch this on repeat, it will be on my channel. After a couple hours of processing, and then you can come back and watch the whole thing from start to finish. Lord only knows how long this is going to take. It's fairly late where I'm at, and we'll get as far as we can before we start just making some wild ass decisions. The boys in blue, and what do we got for the undead? We're going to go with black for Trollopolis. Rolling for initiative on the first turn. And the Trollopolis is going to get the initiative first. The undead are all going to be operating as, well, like I said, pretty much everybody on the Trollopolis side is light infantry, with the exception of the mounted troops, who are classed as appropriate. And we'll just go ahead and start over on this side. Now, remember we said that the cavalry are going to try to sweep around the side. And, where's my cheat sheet? I've only played a dozen games, so I don't have all of these numbers memorized. Our light horse move a full 12 inches, and the medium horse move 9. So our light horse can come all the way around. We'll move them 9 inches, and we'll turn, and then our medium horse are going to bring up the rear, and it's just that easy. We'll bring... remember we said that these brigands are going to try to secure the flanks. The light infantry can move 4.5 inches each, so that's going to be to about here. And Zamzel, and I think we'll bring the archers up to there, so they can maybe get some shots off. We'll continue sweeping these guys around. And that's it for that side. Then all of these light infantry are going to be able to move up 4.5 inches, which puts them right about here. And again, the skeletons, what we'll do is we'll move them as light, and they may fight as heavy infantry. No, they're going to fight as heavy infantry against... what do we do? When you are attacking them, if you are using bladed weapons, they will be... the zombies are slow fighting, so they're all going to be light infantry, with the exception of, if you are foolish enough to try to attack the skeletons with bladed weapons, then they will defend as armored foot. All right, there we go. And then this guy is going to come up his 4.5 inches as well. And then Yokono, it will come... again, I don't know. He wants to kind of stay out of the fight. What we'll do is there's enough... Maybe he moves up to here or comes down to here. They are going to move. I'm going to roll a dice to see whether they move up or just kind of hang in the back. On evens, they move up. Yeah, they're going to move up. And they can move up to 4.5 inches. So that puts them a little closer as far as spell range is concerned. He may decide to pop off a couple of fireballs and wipe out a few of those gnomes on their way in. Even if the gnomes have solid saving throws, it doesn't cost him anything to fire it off. All right, so we'll come back and we'll take a look at our gnomes now. We'll be able to push in here in a little bit. We're going to send our badgers off. Now remember, they move as a light horse, so they can move 12 inches. We're going to send them up to here to protect the flank. Likewise, we're going to move this light infantry. Let me double check my gnomes. The gnomes might actually be heavy infantry. They're dealing with yeah, they've got a little better AC. They're going to be heavy. We'll treat them as partial armored, but that means that they can only move 4.5 inches. So we'll move them up to here. So these two guys do have bow fire. They can't fire twice. Actually, those are the slingers. So they only have a range of 6 inches. We'll bring the rest of these guys up 4.5 inches, like so. And that's going to be about it. Now, this is a bowman. And so now we have some bow fire to attend to. Anybody that has a long bow has a range of 10.5 inches. I don't think anybody has range. We don't there. 10.5 inches is right here. So that's about it. Remember, Zamzel is going to stand back. Well, let's bring him up to here at least, so that he's close enough to give orders. Oh, to here, he said, without showing you where it was. So now things are getting a little tighter. And Zamzel himself has moved up to here. So here he is. And there's his leader and bodyguard right behind. Everybody's moved once. I am dealing with exhaustion, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because there's not going to be a lot of motion before we actually get stuck in. Then we have for, let's see, artillery and missile troops, melee resolution. So we got to do missile fire now. None of the archers are in range. And I don't think any of our wizards are in range either. If we want to send off a fireball or silence is the other one we need to be aware of here. And this is our first pawing through the rule book to make sure that we're getting our distances correct. We're going to do our spell casting during the missile fire phase. And our cleric spells are 2nd level. Silence will do what? It has a range of 12 inches. Well, unfortunately, no, the rules as written is 12, but it's going to be 6 inches because, again, remember, we're doing it 15 millimeters. Then we, give me 1 second here, guys. Let me turn on my live chat. The decision dice simplify things, Tiger Shadow does. Yeah, it simplifies things. Yeah. It's not a big chicken that's afraid that all his friends are going to hate him for making dumb decisions. Those of you that saw the last battle, the big mistake that I think I made was that I gave ratios for everything. One figure is 25 guys. One skiff represents 2 skiffs. One of these represents 3 of those. And then each giant represents 1 giant. Oh, well, that means I honestly think there were way too many giants on the table. It is what it is. We've already done that. So what can you do? And we'll see. I think they'll be okay. So Fireball gives you a range of 10 inches plus 1 inch per level. If Zamzel wants to fire one off, that means he's got a range of 12.5 inches. So he's going to be just out of range right now. And then Yoko Ono over there is going to be firing a fireball spell at, let me check his hit die. Yeah, he is also going to be at 21, cut that in half, 10.5 inches, which is right about there. He's just out of range. Okay, so with our first round, not a whole lot. It's just everybody moving up. And then we move on to turn number 2. Tie for the initiative. And with a 5 for... All right. The Gnomes get to go first, and they're not gonna. They're going to defer. Why don't you guys go first? And they do that because it forces our light horse to engage like so. And these guys, our medium horse, can move 9 inches, and they should get up into the screen. They're almost up to the screen. There they are. Oh, yep, there they are. Okay. So we're going to have some melee here. And then these fellas are going to move their 4.5 inches to here. The bowman is not. The entire mass of zombies is going to come down like so. And they are all converging on the, well, like we can kind of, that I might have given these guys an extra movement. And oh, well, now we got an issue where the undead, their inability to move, and he's 4 inches away. So in order to avoid the traffic jam here, Zamzel shouts over and says, hey, you zombies, don't move this turn. That gives enough space for the skeletons to come up. And we've got a little delaying force over there. All right. The Yokuono is going to stay over here with his bodyguard. And he's feeling good about this. If these guys don't get stuck in at 4.5 inches, we're going to be, I think we're good. There's your 4.5 inches. It's, oh, I'm sorry. No, that's not a problem for them at all. Heavy foot charge 6 inches. So everybody is going to be able to get stuck in, but they don't want to, right? Remember that they've got some heavy hitting stuff that they can do. We're going to move everybody up like so. We're going to put our archers. These guys don't have a shot at the brigands who are taking advantage of the trees. The choice we have is whether to bring these gnomes who are armed with slings and swords. Do we want? Yeah, we're going to bring them up to support the rabid wolverines and woozles and whatnot. Then we're going to bring this archer up here, and he's going to be at 4 fatigue, but he is relatively protected. So we will have some missile fire down to here. He may be able to fire up there as well, but that's beside the point. Stopping at just 3 inches away so that they can lob their holy water at each of these units. And the way we're going to treat holy water is similar to bow and arrow. If we look at, so first I look at my instructions. What did you need me to do there, DM? 1 holy water attack is equivalent to a free melee hit on undead. And then he gives me 3 ranges. So if that's a free melee hit, then what we can do is let's stop. Let's stop. We're going to go carefully here. We have done, do we consider that split move? Do they fire it as they're moving into melee? If that's the case, then they would do half their movement, and then they would fire, and then they would finish the charge. You can treat that essentially the same way that you treat javelin armed troops. So we are conducting a missile fire phase that is equivalent to a free melee hit. Okay, so if these 2 units fire at these zombies, they are going to get off 2 wipes out 4 of those zombies. That's 200 zombies. We've got 1 set of guys. I wonder if we might have been better off wiping out 2 skeletons. These guys are going to launch. You got to launch at the guys you're about to get into combat with, right? So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think that's it. They're going to wipe out 4 of these skeleton. So just like that, the odds are evened up. That's your free hits. But these guys have used up all of their holy water. Why do I think I'm missing something here? We've got 5 of our guys. Oh, it's 5 throwing it over there. So that's actually a 5th skeleton that bites the dust for the 2nd time. And then we finish our charges, and we're going to charge these 4 into these 4 zombies. And we're going to charge these 5 into these 5. And now we're done with all of our movement. And we have artillery and missile troops. All of the gnomes are engaged in melee, which makes it a lot harder to nuke them with a fireball. Unless Yoko Ono doesn't care who he kills, if he says they're just zombies. All right, and for those of you that are playing along at home, if you've got a session coming up and you need to know why our NPC did what he did, it's because of this die right here. On an even number, he is going to launch a fireball into this. On an odd number, he is going to withhold. On an odd number, he will withhold. Likewise, now Iokuno, Zamzel is not going to do that. Let me take a look at what spells he has available. He may decide to use 1 or 2 of those. Zanzel, what do you got there? Identify? Yeah, no, that's not going to be good. He does have a number of teleport spells, and he's got an invisibility spell for himself. He also has, let's see, Yokuno. Wow, Yokuno's got, man, he is big. He might cast Fear. All right. But he's not casting anything now. He's just waiting. If these guys break through, then he might send his boys in, and he might just scamper off. Any other missile fire? Yeah, he's got a shot, and he is going to take the shot at this guy here. The gnome archer is dealing with a short sword and a short bow. So one guy, if we're looking at chainmail, one guy shooting at unarmored is going to do a hit on a well, so maybe we won't shoot at him. Maybe we should shoot at these brigands. Specifically, which of the brigands do we want to target? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're targeting that middle guy, and on a 3 through 6. Is that right? Well, we got to check the range, right? So we are at 4.5 inches range, and armed with a bow, we've got a range of 7.5 feet to 7.5 inches, so we're good there. So on a 3 through 6, he's going to kill him. Hey, there you go. So that guy goes down. And that was the brigand with the crossbows. So we didn't have to worry about the guy shooting back at him now. At the end of the video, we'll sit down and we'll tally up the butcher's bill. That's it for shooting. Now we have to do melee. And for melee, we've got a light horse attacking, well, light horse with bow. So it's a light horse on light horse, and we've got a brigand a light horse fighting 2 light infantry. This is a much smaller battle. You could probably get away with rolling d20s as needed. That seems a little bit, throwing the matchsticks on the counter and counting them up autistic to me. This way of streamlining everything down to just a couple of die rolls just makes way more sense to me. So what we essentially have is one light horse attacking light horse. He gets a light horse on light horse, is 1 die for each, killing on a 6. So with a 4, there's no wounds delivered. And then we've got 2 light infantry attacking a light horse. They get a die. And on a 6, they're going to hit. Oh. So they do 1 casualty. And then we've got 2 light horses. And we've got the light horse attacking light horse, which is 1 die killing on a 6. Does not. And then we've got 1 light horse attacking light infantry, where you get 1 die. No, light horse on light infantry, you get 2 dice per, so he gets 2 dice killing on 5s. And so we have 1 casualty there. Tallying up our morale, what you'll find is, well, first of all, it's a tie as far as casualties, 1 to 1. the end of the day, it's going to be 2 figures versus 1 figure. And man, this is way easier than usual. I don't even have to multiply, do I? The Lightfoot has a morale factor of 4, the Light Horse 6, so it's 10 to the Gnomes. And then it is, the Light Horse is 6, so it's a difference of 4, and it's going to be, oh look, melee continues. No, you got to double it because it's less than 20. Oh, yeah, melee continues. Yeah, there's not going to be, with this few forces, there's not going to be a whole lot of moving around. Move these guys off, but that one hurt on the part of the Gnomes is probably bigger because they don't have nearly as much to lose. Not only that, but the Brigand Medium Horse is going to get involved here in a minute, and things are going to get even worse. Then we have a melee here, and all of our skeletons are going to be attacking as, what did we say? Lightfoot, 2, 4, 5, and they are attacking medium foot. Right, they attack as Lightfoot. So 5d6 as Lightfoot attacking medium foot is going to be hitting on Lightfoot attacking, I'm sorry, Heavyfoot is, they're going to get 2 dice hitting on 6s. So no hits there. Medium foot attacking, oh, now, what are those guys armed with? That is our club and spear. So the good news is they've got clubs. They are ready for skeletons. So they will be still attacking as, they're attacking against medium foot. So medium on medium is going to be, or heavy on heavy. Okay, for those of you that don't know, for whatever reason, Gary Gygax says there's Lightfoot, there's Heavyfoot, and there's Armored Foot. You mean light, medium, and heavy? What is this, Starbucks? The only Armored Foot we've got is over here, and the skeletons attacked by blades count as Armored Foot as well. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, by the way, this leader here is a hero. He attacks as 4 heavy foot. So it's a total of 9 heavy foot. Attacking, the skeletons are going to be treated as, they attack as light, they defend as heavy. So the heavy foot attacking heavy foot, it's going to be 1 for 1, and it's 3, 4, 5, 9 dice. So there's 3. I'm sorry, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hitting on 6s. So 2 more deaths. Something like that. And the Gnomes now have won by 2. They get a bonus to the morale of 10. Right. Let me Warfrat. So the way this works, I got it right in my head. And I might have changed it a couple of times. The skeletons will move as light infantry and attack as light infantry. They defend as heavy infantry if you're attacking them with clubs, and as armored infantry if you're attacking them with blades. And if we want to take a look at the cheat sheet so I can show you the differential there, if you've got heavy foot that are attacking heavy foot, you roll 1 die per figure and you kill on a 6. If you are attacking armored foot, you can do it, camera. There you go. You only get 1 die for every 2 figures and kill on a 6. In other words, if these gnomes were armed with bladed weapons, they would roll half as many dice when attacking the skeletons. The problem the skeletons have is that they are light infantry attacking the heavy infantry. So again, they only roll Lightfoot against heavy, so they cut their numbers in half. And I don't want to predict what's going to happen here. I have a bad track record when it comes to that. The skeletons now are going to be... Oh, one other thing I should point out. The presence of the clerics neutralizes the fear caused by the skeletons. The gnomes are bolstered by the presence of the clerics. Normally, if these were normal men fighting skeletons, I would give the skeletons a morale boost from light to medium infantry. But because of the skeletons, I'm not giving that to them, which means the skeletons have a total morale score. Oh, they don't check morale. So it doesn't matter. They're never going anywhere. However, in the event that the gnomes lose a melee, then we're going to treat, or I guess if they defend as armored foot, we'll have to give these guys the full 6 points or 7 points for armored foot instead of the 4 that they would get for light. That's the effect of the fear that the skeletons would have. We have one more fight over here to do. This melee is going to be, right, and now we've got a couple of guys with swords, but they're fighting zombies. And the zombies are, they're hard to kill. So when you attack them, we'll treat them as heavy foot. But likewise, right, because you got to get that headshot in. But likewise, when they attack you, they attack as lightfoot because they're, I'm sorry, it's late. I should be making an Edmund Fitzgerald joke here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm sure you guys have heard that a million times before. Let's do the gnomes first. We've got 2 guys with swords and 2 guys with clubs. No, with spears. So that is a total of 4 attacks as heavy foot on heavy foot, hitting on 6s. Hey, we got 1 kill, so we'll knock off. And I know this looks like a wraith. These guys are great. Splintered Light, man, they've got some of the best undead. So that's 1 kill for the gnomes. And then the zombies attacking as Lightfoot, they're only going to roll 2 dice hitting on 6s, and they do nothing against these gnomes. The gnomes won. The zombies don't check morale. That is going to be the end of the turn. Melee is done. We'll remove all of our casualties. And then we'll kick back over to everybody's favorite initiative. And the nice thing about this shot right here, all of the figures in the fight are shown in the shot. Let's see who moves first. It's going to be the gnomes. And honestly, it doesn't matter because all of the gnomes are stuck in melee right now. I'm treating this as a single melee. They were stuck in. So on their turn, the forces of Trollopulous, we're going to have these medium horse are going to hit the light horse in the flank, meaning they will be able to attack without a retaliatory attack on the part of that medium foot. The Zombie Godzilla, 8 hits now, and this is where things are going to start getting ugly for the gnomes, I think. Zamzel says, what are you doing back there? What are you doing? Get stuck in. Go over there. The zombies are going to move over this way to back up the rest of the zombies. And then Zamzel is going to ease himself around. Let's put him right here. He's got his bodyguard with him. He wants to stay out of the line of, well, there's no retreat, right? These guys, okay, so the difficulty he's got is he needs to stay within 4 inches to command these guys. Zamzel has to be within 4 inches of the undead in order to shift their commands. If once these skeletons are dead, why does this keep turning off my live chat? I love it. He is just letting the brains in the parrot sleep. Yeah, I am. I'm a little surprised it's so quiet. You'll hear the rooster go off here before long, I'm sure. Where was I? Right. So the problem is, if these skeletons die, if they manage to put down the zombie Godzilla, then the gnomes will be close enough to get stuck into hand-to-hand combat with Zanzel, and he's not looking forward to that. What are we going to do? So the question then becomes, what do we do with these guys? They're going to get picked off by this bowman, so we'll move him 4.5 inches to support over here, and we'll move him 4.5 inches as well, and then our archer is going to have to move up. That's where we have first shot from the bow, and he's going to target this guy while he was back here, and he only hits, on a 6, but despite the fact he knocked over some of his gnomes, he hits. So this other bandit leader goes down. Man, this Bowman is turning out to be the MVP, ain't he? So this guy is going to either support over here or he's got to work his way up here. We're going to get one more shot. And then we are done with movement. Does Yokuno, seeing how this battle went, is he now a lot more comfortable firing a fireball? Oh, I forgot to specify. On an even, he fires. On an odd, he does not. All right, so on odd, he does not. So he's, nope, we still got these guys coming in. Let them all die. Mr. Necromancer should have been here. And that is going to do it for movement. Any other shooting? Zamzel doesn't have any targets. Nobody else does. So we got to do this guy's second shot is going to be at this shooter over here. They're actually going to shoot at each other. The black die is shooting for the. They both need a 6, right? Black die is this, just like initiative, right? Blue will be for the gnomes. Looking for 6s. Neither of them hit. And we are now ready to do the next round of combat. One move, a charge is 2. One round of combat. That's 4 rounds in which our gnomes, they're not tired yet. They're going to be fighting at full effectiveness. Next turn, these guys are going to be exhausted. What happens in this turn, though? Let's start with our flank attack by the medium horse for the brigands have flanked our wolverines and giant badgers. I love this game. Because they hit him in the flank, they are going to be treated as heavy horse. Heavy horse attacking light horse. Well, they fight as medium horse, right? Heavy on medium. 1 for 1, so they're going to roll 1 die. They're going to kill him on a 5 or 6. They do not. The light horse does not get to counter. However, the light horse and the light infantry do both get to roll against the brigand light horse. Let's do the brigand first. The brigand light horse with the bow is going to be attacking. He's going to be attacking the badgers as well. And on a 6, I think that's a kill. The light horse on light horse is going to be, 6. So the badger goes down. And then we have 2 rolls. The light horse on light horse, killing on a 6. And then we've got light infantry on the light horse. On a 3 is not going to do it. He is, however, going to face the prospect of running away. And I don't know what it means. He may need to rally. We've now had how many casualties on the part of the gnomes? Just the one? Is that our first gnomish casualty? I'm looking in the graveyard. I think he is. Okay, so we lost 1. This guy now, if we do our morale, is going to have a morale of 4 versus... Oh, and then we got to roll the d6 times 5. Ooh, oh my goodness. No, times 2, rather. So that's 12. Plus the medium horse is 20. Plus the light horse is 26. So total score 26 versus a total score of 4 is 22. Double that 44. Move back a full move in good order. So seeing his flank dissolve means this guy falls back 4.5 inches, but he's still facing that way. Slowing him down. The next combat, I'm going to do this combat next because it's a little bit easier. We have a total of our swordsman, heavy foot, fighting heavy foot. We've got 4 dice hitting on 6s. 2 zombies go down. The zombies are Lightfoot attacking. Oh, we've only got 3 now. So Lightfoot on Heavyfoot, you only get 1 die per 2 guys. So you only get 1 die, and a 4 going to be a miss. That lone zombie does not have to check for morale. Interestingly, that frees these guys up to go after the spellcaster. They've now wiped out half of the zombies, and, well, depending on what happens here. All right, so this is a big fight. Remember, it's going to be 10 dice. Well, okay, and this is where things get really complicated. Because we've got 10 dice on the 3 skeletons. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 10. And heavy foot on defending as heavy foot. Hitting on, wait, did we say the skeletons defend as heavy foot? Or did we say light? I want to make sure I get it right. I'm asking Peanut Gallery. If not, let me walk that back. I want to make sure I get it consistent. I mean, I may be wrong, but at least I'll be wrong consistently. The Gnomes started to unionize. Jeff Rose outsourcing. Let me tell you, Mr. Jeffrey's employer. Okay. The reason it matters is if these skeletons are defending as Lightfoot, then we're gonna roll a heck of a lot more dice. In fact, that's right. They are defending as medium foot. It's medium foot attacking medium foot. It's 1 per 1 because I remember we rolled 10 dice, including the 10 for looking for 6s. Nothing doing. Now it's time for the skeletons to attack back, and they are hitting on 6s. So we get 1 casualty on the gnomes, and then we have to roll 8 dice. Hitting on 6s for the big boy. Hitting on 6s, that's going to be 2 more hits, so 2 more gnomes go down. And just like that, about half the gnomes are out of here. Then we have to tally up our morale differential, and it's only going to be heavy foot, 5, 10, plus the hero. What is the bonus that heroes give to morale? A hero's morale rating is 20. So it's 30 on the part of, but do we treat this as a giant for the purposes of morale? The gnomes have a total morale score of 30. A giant will give you a morale score of... Zombie Barney there might be the difference. Where's our giants? Orcs, heroes, supers, wizards. He's a wizard, Harry. Let's see, morale rating of 20 for Treant. So there we go. Giants have a morale rating of nothing. Wait a minute. They don't have any morale rating? I'm gonna give that fella a morale rating of Okay, for the purposes of, thanks, Gary. For the purposes of figuring out whether the gnomes run, he has a morale rating of 20. Add these skeletons who have morale ratings of 5. It's going to be 35 plus 12 for 47. Our hero, so it's 47 versus 20. It's a difference of 17. Double that, move back a half a move in good order. So our gnomes are going to fall back 2 1/4 inches. And now we'll move our gnomes off to the graveyard. Initiative is going to be vital. That is the end of things. Because they were just locked in melee, we're done. Let's see. I thought 1-to-1 time was a weird experience. Oh, Jeffro's in the house. How about that? The man, the myth, the legend. I don't even live my life 1-to-1. Let's see. Jack. Let me go back through some of these comments. Nerzenjager. Jeffro does not like the gnomes, huh? The first time I've seen a game like this. Is Badger a jargon? No, Badger is literal badgers. This is what I was given. This is the battle roster. Sergeant Gnomes, Light Gnome, Gnome Chief, and then what do we have here? We have Badgers. Right? 17. There it is, almost focused. There's 6 giant Badgers and 7 Wolverines. And if you've ever seen a Badger like going to town on a they'll mess you up. Hey, there's a reason the rats in Redwall feared Mama Badger more than like the rest of Redwall combined. All right, badgers are no joke. Here's the question: we're done with the turn. We've done all of melee, and the gnomes. I got to be honest with you. You know, the gnomes have taken a beating right now, but they have done some serious blamage. And the wizards are still safe. I think at this point, everybody has to be satisfied with how well they've performed. Okay. The brigands have only lost 1, 2, 3 units altogether, and but that's almost half of their numbers, right? We still have a couple of foot. We have a couple of foot and a couple of mounted. So if everybody retires right now, everybody can retire in, feeling good about what they've accomplished. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna roll the 2d6 for initiative because things get really wild. Trollopulous wins the initiative, and that is huge because it means that. Oh, what? Who said we don't need? Jeffro said we don't need no stinking badgers. I was gonna make that joke. You beat me to it. Nerzenjäger did all the bookkeeping parts for years, but never let time continue beyond actual sessions. That's where I was wrong. And now the whole game makes so much more sense. It's crazy. Oh, Dartmart, a nominal victory, gnominal victory. That's bad even by my standards. I love it to death. The problem is whatever ploy the Gnome King had up his sleeve is not going to do him any good because he gets to go second. These old boys are going to lock back in combat and force him to make a very difficult choice. The zombies over here are going to pile in once more. And we're just going to go back to 4 gnomes versus 12 zombies. Then for movement, we have 1 shot, and with this bowman, he's going to go ahead. We're going to trade shots. Again, if either of these come up as 6, if the blue is a 6, the gnome hits. If the brown is a 6, he hits. No hits on that shooting. We got to figure out if Yokono pops off one of his fireballs, and we're going to roll for him too. On even, going to roll blue for him and blue for him. On an even, they're going to fire a fireball. They both decide to launch fireballs into this morass right here. They are absolutely within range. And the fireballs are going to have an 1.5 inches. So here's where it gets fun. These guys fire off fireballs at the same time. And I'm going to nominate 1, 2, 3, 4 to see who they were specifically targeting. I'm going to roll the d4 2 times. And I'll show you what. And that's where we're going to drop our green. So the first die roll comes up a 4. Okay. And our second die roll comes up a 4. So they both targeted the same location. And we're going to drop it on gnome number 4, and that's going to wipe out all of these guys. So we traded 2 gnomes for 4 more zombies. I put my fireballs back, and that is during the. Is there any other? Oh, kind of did that a little early because we need to do movement over here first. This guy is going to have to move about 2 inches to here, and then 1.5 inches up to there, and these guys are going to get stuck in down here. And now we do missile fire, which means second missile fire for both of these guys, looking for 6s. The brown gets a 6 and puts him down. So the gnomish bowman goes down, and we have to fight a round of melee. The Gnomish King has a couple of options at his disposal. He has reinforcements available. Instead of his 4 attacks, he can call reinforcements. I'm not going to tell you how, because I don't want to spoil the campaign. I don't want to reveal what his particular magic item is. There is a 50-50 chance. On a even number, the battle is over because the gnomes, the surviving gnomes, escape. On an odd number, reinforcements arrive. Oh, wouldn't you know it? Do it again. On an even number, the battle is over. This Gnome King burns a wish to get his guys out because they are about to be cooked. Seeing that these wizards are perfectly willing and able. Oh, by the way, the reason I rolled that d4, if they had hit this guy 1 and 4, or even like 2 and 4 or 1 and 3, it would have wiped out this entire melee. All of the gnomes would have been killed. All of the zombies would have been killed. And the 2 wizards would have, gotten together and gotten their story straight. So going back to the Necromancer King, said, yeah, those gnomes were just super tough, bro. But I don't know what to tell you, bro. It was just super tough. However, be that as it may, what really happened here is that the Gnome King realizes that his boys are going down. And he says, man, I wish we were out of here safely. Or something to that effect. Now, again, I will remind you that I am but a humble modeler. And so what I've done is I have modeled out one way this complicated battle could go. It is up to the DM's discretion to decide how much of what appears here is canon in universe, and I'm fine with that. So if we now sit down and tally up our butcher's bill, let me bring this camera down to kind of miniature eye view here so we can see. Here are our survivors. The Gnome King and his studly hero. There they are. So there's our Gnome King, and he was able to get out with, I got to double check my roster, make sure I'm saying this right. He came into the battle with 240 gnomes with club and spear and lost 120 of them. The gnomes with the swords survived, and one of the gnomes with club and spear survived. So he lost about half of his force. Moving forward in the campaign, that's essentially what we're looking at. Here are the fallen. We'll pay our due respects before we push them off to the side. In addition to all of his little animals, there's our little animals who all died here. So we lost we lost a lot of our heavy troops. We lost our bow. Who are these 2 guys with the clubs? Those are the guys with the clubs. And a requisite number of the clerics, right? Our hero cleric survived. He was with this group. But our under clerics, we lost 1, 2, I think we lost 3 of the 4 for those guys. Inkle also survived without a scratch. So there you go. There is the results from the perspective of the gnomes. How many of those guys... Now, and I will also remind you, that is what happens in the battlefield. Anybody that was a casualty might only be wounded and might be able to come back in the future, okay? Based on how we want to rule that wish. Of the 16 zombies, 5 survived. So if we look at our ratio for the forces of Trollopulous, of the 800 zombies, 250 survived. Of the 10 skeletons, 3 survived. So we went from having 500 available to 150. I have no idea whether that's good or bad. Our zombie Godzilla is untouched. The brigands are able to keep their halberdier, their bowmen, and all of their light infantry, in addition to the medium horse and the light horsemen with a bow. Yoko Ono and her goons survived okay, and then the other fallen on the part of the brigands, is gonna be, so here's our graveyard up here. The light horse is no more. Also, who all survived there? The leader guards lieutenant, nope. The guy with the crossbow, and the guy with the, who is that one? Infantry, one of the light infantry? Yeah. So one of the light infantry did go down. And that is going to be a wrap. There was not nearly as much spell casting involved as I expected. The big difference is that the clerics kind of negated the benefit that the undead would have had. But again, when you're talking about a ratio, the gnomes got ratioed. The gnomes came in with about 600 troops. The brigands came in with a grand total of 460, plus Zamzel's about 500. So it was 500 to the brigands, to 600 to the gnomes, and 1,300 to the undead, which means the gnomes were outnumbered 3-1. And despite being outnumbered 3-1, they were able to move this hill out of the way. Here's the cemetery here in the back. They were able to cut the amount of undead by well over 2/3, almost down to, well, I mean, there's only, by 2/3, just about 2/3 exactly, 70% for the skeletons and 5/16 for the zombies. Is that a win? Is that a loss? Who met their victory conditions? I haven't the slightest idea. When you play a game like this, you are playing at a high level. You are playing at a game. This is very much this very much mimics real world situations, where you can ask yourself who really won any given war, right? Who really won World War One? Well, America did, right? But did Russia or Germany? They were both literally decimated, more than decimated, right? Nobody won the Franco-Prussian War. I mean, technically, you could talk about who got the better end of the treaty, but at the end of the day, it was a very costly experience, and the full ramifications of this battle will not be known for some time to come. I look forward to learning the full ramifications of this battle through very cryptic edgelording on Twitter. Again, if you want to know more about this AD&D campaign, the best thing to do is hop on Twitter and check the hashtag Trollopulous. That's Trollop, TROLLOPULOUS. And if you want to know exactly what's going on, I don't know what to tell you, because nobody knows exactly what's going on. There are about, 10 to 15 guys that all have a piece of the puzzle and all know a little bit about what's going on, but nobody knows the full story. And trying to piece it together is half the fun. I'm going to draw a parallel here for you. And I don't want you to get all bound up, okay? You got to take a deep breath. Whatever you think of the Q phenomenon, there was something entertaining there. The idea of cryptic drops that give you little snippets of what may or may not be going on. And you have to kind of watch the news and try to fit those little pieces of the puzzle. You're looking through a mirror darkly. There's something there. There's something entertaining going on. Now, it's possible to take that stuff too seriously. Some people definitely did. However, if you take it as just a piece of entertainment, and if you are willing to kind of, sit back, hang on to your armrests, and just enjoy the ride, just let it wash over you. Just read through that hashtag now and again, and laugh at the goofy pictures that people have. One of the guys and it might be Macho Mandalf, has bred pugmen, and I think the pugmen are kobolds. But there is a band of like 150 pugmen running around tearing things up in Trollopolis. I don't exactly know what his plan is. I know what he insinuates, but that's what he's saying for the other players in the campaign. So there's just as much information involved in the Trollopolis drops, if you will, as there is usable information. And the best, like I said, the best thing to do is just kind of let it wash over you. Just kind of enjoy Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. The other great part, though, if you really want to know what's going on, because there are multiple DMs and most of the guys that are running sessions will post session reports on various blogs. And that's probably the best way to go to keep track of what's going on. When a DM runs a session, he needs to tell not just, a bunch of randos like you and me what's going on. He needs to tell the people at his table, hey, here's what happened as I understand it. Here are the ultimate ramifications, and here's what you need to know moving forward. But he doesn't just have to tell the people that were there. He also has to tell the other players in the campaign what happened. If you are playing in the Trollopolis campaign, even if you are on the far side of the world, what happens in Trollopolis never stays in, will affect sooner or later. So it behooves all of the whatever 20 players in any of these tabletop sessions to read the session reports of the other DMs. And even if you're not involved in one of these campaigns, I highly recommend reading these blogs, because the analysis that these guys are providing as to how one-to-one time works and how you can run multiple tables, multiple independent parties working at cross purposes, it's been a real eye opener. I cracked a joke the other day in my last video about how the Trollopulous guys said, "Hey, Mr. Wargaming, you're the world's foremost authority on chainmail." I may have been paraphrasing. If I am, it's only because they bully me into being so. It's only because they are playing this game at such a high level that it makes me want to sprint just to try and keep them in my sights. Keep them below the horizon, because they push me hard, and they can push you hard too. There's a lot to learn from these guys. Don't let the edge lording fool you. There are some steel trap minds in there that are doing some astonishing stuff. And the other thing I'll point out, I constantly point this out, they ain't charging you for it. They're not getting anything out of it. They really want you to do better, and they want to push you to do better. Not because they've got product to sell, like, most of the leading lights of the OSR. They're not selling product. They're selling the game. They are selling you. They know that you can handle this. So once again, you got to look up Trollopulous. I'll try to remember to change the description and throw a description and link. And we are now at the 90-minute mark. For the joy of wargaming, one last thing to mention. I was supposed to publish the initial foray into a solo chainmail campaign. I will be running a map-based campaign of the Human Empire versus the Orcish Khans. I pushed that back a week. This live stream counts as my video for Monday, the 22nd? A week from Monday, you will see how to set up your own chainmail campaign. And not just a campaign, but a map-based campaign where your armies will organically form from communities, and you will wind up with multiple armies in multiple locations with multiple abilities, multiple rosters. Some of them will be heavy on foot, some of them will be heavy on horse. You will have to decide, do I want to combine all of my horse before I invade the northern country? Do I just move as fast as possible? All of that stuff is randomized, and all of that stuff is delightful, and it's a great way to sit down and engage in a little bit of practical world building, but not just a static world that will never see any dice rolled, but a world that is, from the get-go, from the starter pistol, already a breathing world where minor decisions that you make today can have far-ranging impacts down the road. So look for that next week. Look for another video this Wednesday on some of the lesser known miniature wargaming channels that I think you should follow. And look for the Union label, and look out for yourselves, people. Look out for each other, would you? I'm doing the best I can, helping you out, showing you some great chainmail stuff. And when I'm not doing that, when I'm not taking care of the wife and kids, when I'm not taking care of the boss, I'm praying for you.